to have you all here. And to just kick us off, what is YALI? You know, we may assume that we all know what YALI is. It's Young African Leaders Initiative, which was launched in 2010 by the former US President Barack Obama. Its aim is to nurture the next generation of young African leaders and to give them the tools necessary for them to be the leaders that are necessary for the time that we're in the African landscape. So YALI has three components. So there's the Mandela Washington Fellowship, there's the Regional Leadership Center, and there's the YALI Network. And this information session is going to cover the Regional Leadership Center, but it's important to know the different arms of the YALI umbrella. Charles, you can go to the next slide. So the Mandela Washington Fellowship covers 6 weeks. So they do an application as well online, and they get selected on merit. And this is for youth aged 25 to 35 who have shown innovation in what they're doing. They have shown that they're promoting their initiatives to support the communities. And so they go off for 6 weeks in America. Then for the Regional Leadership Center, it's based here in Nairobi, Kenya. And it covers the East Africa region, so 14 countries. And also it gives the opportunity for young leaders 18 to 35 to come and be trained here in Nairobi, Kenya, so that they can learn more about civic leadership, if that's what you select, if you select business and entrepreneurship, and if you select public management. And then there's the YALI Network, which is an online extension of the YALI umbrella, where it gives online courses which are free. It gives invaluable information that will also boost your leadership journey. You know, sometimes we don't get selected, but that doesn't mean your leadership journey stops there. You can plug into the YALI network, gain more skills, and as the other application opens, you can apply because now you have additional skills as well. I will hand over to my next colleague who will take us through eligibility and other details of the application process.
Thank you very much, Muthoni, for taking us through that session. I believe the participants now understand what YALI is about and the three components of YALI, namely the Mandela Washington Fellowship, the YALI Regional Leadership Centers, and the YALI Network. Just to emphasize, all of us belong to the YALI Network, those who are in Mandela Washington Fellowship, as well as those who are in the YALI Regional Leadership Centers. We all belong to the YALI Network. So it's not a question of those who have not gone to either the members of the network. All of us belong to the network. So when you see an event that says YALI Network or YALI Regional Leadership Center or YALI Mandela Washington Fellowship, all of us are invited to participate. So I'll now invite Douglas Ogutu, who's going to take us through the criteria as well as the application requirements. Karibu sana, Douglas.
All right, thank you so much. Hello, guys. I'm happy to be here and to talk with us. First of all, just like my colleague has mentioned, YALI is about leadership. And so it's all about the influence that we hope to be created in Africa. And so we want to say that it's merit-based and it's highly competitive. I'll just mention, first of all, that, you know, each cohort only accepts 100, averagely 100 young people. And that means 100 young people from East and Central Africa. So the competition is very, very high. And so it's open to all East Africa leaders who meet the following criteria. One, you must be between 18 to 35 years of age in order for you to apply. So if you are below that or above that, automatically you are not allowed to apply, or rather you are not qualified. Another point is that you need to be a citizen and a resident of the following countries. Basically, we are talking about East and Central Africa. And so, and also this information, especially this one on the residents, or rather who is, which countries are eligible, is found on the website. So Burundi, Central Africa Republic, Republic of the Congo and Democratic Republic of Congo, Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, Tanzania, and Uganda. So all people who belong in those countries, they're eligible. You must be a citizen and a resident of that country, those countries, sorry. And also, you are not supposed to be a US citizen or a permanent resident of the US. Of course, that is also covered in the above criterion. And then also you are eligible to receive any necessary visa to Kenya. This is for those who are outside Kenya. So just in case maybe you have issues maybe with the embassy and all that, you need to rectify that before you even start applying. And then also there is need for proficiency in reading, writing, listening, and speaking English. The reason being that the language, the main language, not even the main language, the only language that is used for instruction while at the center is English. So it's important, maybe for those who are outside Kenya, or even if you are in Kenya and maybe you have some problems with the English language, you might need just to refine. Not because you'll be bashed, but just to enable you to understand well when the instructor is giving instructions. Can you move to the next slide, please? All right, yes, we still on the criteria and the selection. What does YALI look out for? So the panelists will use this criteria. One, you need to demonstrate leadership, either in public service, business, and entrepreneurship, or civic engagement. And so, in other words, while you're applying, the YALI application is all about a story. What is your story? What is your journey in leadership? And when we talk about leadership, we don't mean you must have had, people think about very gigantic things in life. You must have had a very great followership. No, it's the simple things that you do in the society. Remember, leadership is about influence. So if you have influenced people around the community, or you are influencing them, then you are eligible to apply. And then that means that the panelists, when they are checking, it's easier for them to be able to track. And then also we are talking about active engagement in public or community service, volunteerism, and mentorship. At least by the time you are 18, there are a lot of opportunities in the society that we can serve in. So in one point or the other, you need to have engaged yourself in that, because we are looking at the track record of you as an individual and also as a leader. Also, ability to work cooperatively in diverse groups and respect the opinion of others. I just want to remind you that you are coming to meet young people from different countries, 14 countries, as a matter of fact. And so these are people you don't know. These are people you don't know how they interact. And if you have not read so much history or to understand how countries, different cultures, you might experience some culture shock. But YALI is looking for someone who is open-minded, someone who can work with different groups. Because at the end of the program, because it's just only 4 weeks, but at the end of the program, you need to be working with these young people, depending on which groups you'll find yourself in, work with them, develop a project, and be able to set it at a developmental stage, or rather implementation stage. You need to have a strong social and communication skills. These are interpersonal skills. How do you communicate with others? And all these things are going to be demonstrated even in your application. Remember also, you'll be sharing your social links. So the panelists will also be able to reach your social network and find out how you normally interact with people. And this is very important. It's key, not just for this application, but you might be here and maybe you just came to learn, you will apply in future. It matters a lot what you post on your social media. It matters a lot how you interact on a daily life. An energetic and positive attitude, reiterating the other point, is that you are meeting new people, and the whole point of being put together and working on a new project that with people you have never seen, it requires a positive attitude. It requires someone who is proactive, someone who can easily get along with people. And just in case you are not that kind of a person, then this information session is important so that those are things that you can start working on. Another thing is demonstrated knowledge, interest, and professional experience in the track that you select. Now, if you are actively engaged in the civic leadership, it's better you apply with that track because it will be easier for you to sell your story. Remember, I've talked about selling your story. And you can't sell a story in something that you are still new in it. So just gauge yourself. What things are you interacting with in the normal day-to-day life? What is your profession like, talents? What are your, the things that you do on a daily basis? Those are the things that you are supposed to look at when you're applying. Remember, you have been given three tracks. So whatever track you choose, make sure you are going to maximize your potential in that application. Another thing is commitment to apply leadership skills and training to benefit your country and community after the program. Now, sometimes we have young people who are just, enthusiastic about traveling, enthusiastic about joining fellowship after fellowship. Sometimes that can become poisonous to you. So YALI is looking at someone who, after the 1 month of training, you have a commitment that your community is going to benefit. It's not a good idea to apply for YALI. In disguise, you are maybe lying that you're going to be helping the country or rather your community, and yet you know very well you have already applied for a green card, and then you're going to spend your whole life in the US or in another outside country. It would be unfair. You better live for young people who are committed to develop something in the country. And remember, this is about development in Africa, because as we know, we are still in the third world, bracket. So YALI is there to equip you to be able to go back to your community and bring change. That is what the panel is looking out for in your application.
Thank you very much, Douglas. That was actually quite insightful. I hope for those who are following and are still writing the applications that these presentations are quite useful for them. We'll now go to hear about the application process, and Caroline Kamau is going to take us through this. Caroline is an alumni of the RLC. She was in cohort 1, and she's also an instructor at RLC. So she'll give us the perspective from both a participant and an instructor. Welcome, Caroline.
Thank you so much, Monyo. My name is Caroline Kamau, and I'm very excited to be taking you through the application process. Yeah. So the application process to join YALI, once you've confirmed that you've met all the requirements that Douglas have talked about, then you go to the website, and now you go and see that there's a part that says apply now. Yeah. So one thing to note is that the application process is all online. So there will any application done in emails is not acceptable. You cannot print it and then send it to the center. Nobody is going to take that application. So it's done through an online portal. And something then to note, because it's online, then you will require internet and a PC or laptop so that you can successfully apply. And once you have that, you will be prompted to create an account. The process is very easy. And everything that I'm going to share with you right now is all available in the website. So my job actually right now is just to reassure you, for you to hear somebody who's gone through the process talk about it. But all information is on the website. Yeah. So now that it is online, it's very important first to read all instructions carefully. And like I say, they are available. What I've seen most applicants do is that they print these instructions, and so that they can have them for reference as they are applying, yeah? Or also to make sure that you have not missed anything. Yeah. Otherwise, you can always go back to the website and read them if you prefer to read them from your PC or your laptop. Another thing to note is you do not have to finish your application in one sitting. For instance, say you started at 4:25 p.m. on a Monday, you don't have to complete it today. What you can do is the portal allows you to save your work, and then you can return to it later as many times as possible and continue working on your application. But an important thing then to note here is have the deadlines in mind, because while you may be able to work on them, you may forget that the deadline is nigh. So make sure you are aware of when the deadline is, so that you can pace yourself and know when you will complete. Yeah. There are questions that are a requirement, and there are those that are optional, and these will be clearly marked with an asterisk so that you can know what to answer. Also, the portal is in such a way you cannot move to the next stage if you have not responded to a required response. Yeah, so the system will also cooperate with you, because we don't want you to fail. We want to support you, and the system also supports you to apply and send your application. Like Douglas has said, the English is the English language is a requirement. Why? And because all your application will be done in English. And also all the sessions at the center, the discussions, either meetings, any cultural activity will be done in English. So do not expect a translator even when you are applying. The only assistance that is offered is that is when you join the center, is only to persons living with disabilities, but we don't offer translators for language. So you must be able to communicate, read and write in English. And because of this, then when you're applying, you have to really check for spelling and grammar. So that comma, that full stop, that word, how you wrote it, did you understand it? Is it clear? You have to check for all this besides articulating your point. And that's why we advise that after your application, which you're going to be taken through how to ace your essays, it's always wise and advisable to send it to a friend to proofread your answers. And we here, all the YALI alumni, are so willing to, you can always get back to us and ask us to help read through your application to check for such things. Yeah. A very important thing that is in red is avoid plagiarism. Yeah, for all you know, plagiarism is the art of presenting another, it's a deception where you present another person's work as if it's yours. So make sure, like Douglas again emphasized, you are telling your story, and there's no way you can use other people's words to tell your story. So avoid plagiarism. The applicant, we will check for plagiarism, or the process will check for plagiarism. So if they find that you've done that, you will be automatically disqualified. Yeah. We can move to the next slide. Yeah. Okay. So then what does the application process look like now that we have all this background information of what to expect? There are 7 steps in the application process, and they're all very easy to fill. So don't be scared that we're saying it's 7 steps. Step number 1 is where you get to fill your general information, your name, your gender, your biographical data in essential. Yeah. So make sure you fill, for instance, for the name, you fill your, what do we call them? We call them the official names. They are the ones that are on your identification card. your gender, your date of birth. So there will be these prompts to help you know how to fill it. Yeah. And then number 2, the second step is you fill out information regarding your education and language. So one thing you should note about YALI is that there is no minimum level of education or grade required. We've had participants who are current students in university. We've had students who've just completed high school. We've had students who did not manage to go to higher education, but they have demonstrated all those qualities that Douglas was talking about earlier. Yeah, and they have demonstrated great leadership. So there's no minimum level required. You don't have to have a degree or what to participate, yeah, as long as you meet all other requirements. And as for languages, like I said, all sessions, discussions, meetings, any instruction at the center is carried out in English. So you will have to prove that you are proficient in the language. Step number 3, you will fill out your professional experience. This includes formal or informal employment, and I want to emphasize again on this. And Douglas said something so nice, that it does not require you to have something very huge, or as he called it, something gigantic, but as long as you've had any engagement where you have worked with organizations, with communities, whether it was volunteering. So you will fill out this information where you will highlight your key responsibilities and achievements. One thing to note is that such questions have a word limit to it. For instance, for this session, for this section, step 3, it has always been 100 words. So you do not have the liberty or the luxury of writing over and over. You have to know the art of summarizing so that your key responsibilities and key achievements come out. Next slide. Okay. Douglas tried touching a bit on tracks. So the 4th step is where you now select which track you're going to, you would like to participate in. There are 3 tracks. One is the business and entrepreneurship, which is a track for aspiring or already people who are in businesses, and they would like the leadership to take their ventures into the next level. It does not have that you have a business. It could be you're working in the private sector and you want to understand strategies and all that. And so that track would be for you. The second track is civic leadership, which is designed for people who work in the civic space, where they work, say, with NGOs, they volunteer with organizations in the civil society sector to either hold the government accountable, advocacy. And so if you feel that your strengths are more here, or your career is aligned towards this track, then you apply for it. And then we have public management. This is for people who work with governments or international agencies, for instance, the African Union, for instance, or parastatals, yeah, and you would like to know how do we participate publicly, or what are the best practices. So these are the kind of conversations that happen in public management. So once you, and again, all information about what each track is available on the website. So again, I'm just reassuring you. So once you have understood all the 3 tracks and what is required and what type of person would be best fit, then you go ahead and select your track. You're given an opportunity to select all 3, but you select from the most highly preferred. Yeah. The next step is now the personal statements. This is where you get to prove to us that you meet all the criteria that Douglas was talking about, you know, the ability to collaborate, you know, understand cultures, you can, all those requirements that he was talking about. Now here's where you get to prove to us that you have what it takes. And the questions here are in form of essays. Again, each essay has a word limit. And the next presenter is going to talk in depth on how you can ace, because this is sort of the heart of the application, because this is where you get to express yourself. This is where you get to brag. You get to show us your leadership abilities, how you've influenced communities' minds, how you've changed stuff. So the next presenter will help us really understand how do you write such a compelling essay. Yeah. And I know all of you are probably excited for that session. Yeah. And then the next step is some supplemental questions. These are not mandatory to fill, but it's things like marital status, what's your religious affiliation, do you have a disability? But we normally encourage for such a question as do you have a disability that you fill it out so that we also at the center can prepare ahead of time to know what kind of support you will require, whether it's an interpreter or, you know, someone to help you through so that you can have a successful experience. And then the last step is the submitting. And one thing before you submit, the application will ask you to check 2 boxes that check for your commitment. Yeah, that one is all information you've provided is true, and secondly, commitment. Like we always tell all our applicants, the YALI experience is not a holiday. Or as Douglas was saying, I know there are people who, oh, I'm just going to be part of YALI. I'm going to get a certificate for YALI. I'm going to be part of the clique. It's beyond that. These are people, there are people who have invested their funding, their money into the project because it's fully funded. You don't pay a dime so that you can grow your business, your leadership skills. So we wouldn't want you to abuse that process. And that's why you have to check a box committing that for the 4 weeks, I will participate fully. I will be there for a whole month in discussions, in the group activities, in cultural activities, complete all my assignments in time. Yeah. And that's the only way you can actually have the best experience. Yeah, it's both for respect to people who have invested in us and also as a reward to yourself. So that's it about everything you need to know on the application process. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, CK. That was quite insightful. And it's good to receive the pointers, both from the perspective of an applicant, a participant, as well as an instructor. So the next section, which has been mentioned, we are going to look at how do we ace the essays. This is the part that most of us ask questions about. How do I write the essays in such a way that I get selected? And to take us through this section, we have 2 of our alumni. One of them is Josek Olala, he's based in Nakuru. And we also have Molly Jail. She's based in Nairobi and Machakos County. So I welcome Josek and Molly. They are going to take us through that section.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Charles. My name is Joseph from Nakuru. And I'm going to take you through the next session. And as you've heard, this is the most crucial part of your application, because if you miss this part, then most likely 100% you'll not be taken into the system. So this is the most area where everybody is looking for, and it's an essay that you have to write, and you have to convince that indeed you are a leader or you have the traits of a leader. So basically it has 5 questions. This time they have 5 questions, and we'll try and help you know exactly what you are supposed to do, how you are supposed to write and all that. So your responses to these 5 questions will help the selection committee identify your current and potential leadership traits, as well as understand your desire to participate in the program. So your responses are therefore very, very critical in distinguishing yourself from other candidates. Remember, there are many other people who are applying, not just in Kenya, but to about 14 countries that are doing the application. So you have to be very, very careful, and you have to show and to prove that indeed you are a leader, right? So the first question, Charles. Right. So the first question asks that if you had 250 words to introduce yourself to the YALI RLC East Africa team, what would you say? Basically, this is a question that you are being asked who you are besides your name, beside the spelling of your name and all that. But they want just to see exactly who are you? What are you doing? Are you a leader? So you have to provide some basic information about yourself. You have to explain yourself. You have to tell a little bit your name. Tell us something about your family, maybe how you are raised up, right? Academic background, yeah, maybe what do you have? You have a degree, you have a diploma, you have a Form 4 certificate. And remember, as my colleague had told you earlier, it doesn't matter whether you have a Form 4 KCSE certificate or you have a PhD. They are not really interested in that. So it's good you tell us about the general information on your education, academics, your family, and also your name. The other part you need to include here is what we call your professional experience, right? It's very, very important you share with us your professional experience. They want to see how you have brought out, how you've packaged your experience as far as your profession is concerned. So please go ahead and share a little bit about your professional experience, what you are doing in relation to your profession. Then the third part here, you have to share very important information related to your life, but this, what you're going to share here is related to your life, but also it connects to the opportunity. What is this that is in your life or you've experienced in your life? But again, it should be kind of relevant to the opportunity. So don't share something here that maybe it is not connected. So you have to ask yourself, what is it that I have done? What is it that I have that can really add value towards my application? So check on how you are, your opportunity, the kind of life you've lived and how maybe it can really assist you in applying for this YALI. So make sure that it's kind of linked, it's kind of related, it kind of connect with the YALI. If you put something that is not really kind of connecting, maybe it might work negatively towards you. So make sure that you include that, your professional experience, information that is related to the YALI opportunity and all that, and share a little bit background about who you are. So they have said 250 words. In this case, I always advise that if it's 250 words, there's no way you're going to write 50 words and say that you have shared everything. No, try as much as possible to write everything that they need. And I'm sure if you write everything that is required here, in this case, you'll have at least 200 words. So make sure at least you have 200 words and you can between slightly above 200 words. But again, those words should connect, they should make sense and bring out who you are. Who are you besides your name? What is the potential in you? Bring it out. Why do you think you are the most preferred person here than other people from different countries? So bring up who you are, the strength that you do have as far as your background information is concerned. So that is the first part you need to answer as far as that question is concerned. And then the second question here in the essays, it says, I don't know whether Charles, you can connect the screen. Right, Charles?
Just proceed, I'll display it shortly.
All right, thank you. So the second question reads, outline in detail the projects you are currently involved in that is aligned to your chosen track and the impact this project organization is having in the community. Please include the name of project, company, location, your position, and links to the website, social media, or any publication. Now, what I always advise the applicants here is, number one, before you start answering this question or any essay question, make sure you are really understanding what they need. Break that question into several components and before you start answering. So like in this case, you have been told outlined in detail. So you have to start thinking about what kind of projects am I involved in, right? And the question is, you are currently involved in. So this means that something that you are doing currently, so it should be something that is more current, and mention that particular project, and that project should also be aligned to your chosen track. You've been told about track, if it's public management, if it's business entrepreneurship, or it's civic leadership. So how is your project related to that track? You have to really connect that. How is it aligned? How is it related to that particular track? So that's a very important aspect that you really need to consider. So there must be that project, or you have an organization in your community. So look at what you are doing in your community, the project you are doing in your community. They just want to see your leadership journey. Is there anything you are doing that is adding value to your community? Is there a project that you are involved in? Are you maybe working in an organization that is really touching the life of the community? Are you maybe volunteering? For example, if you are volunteering at Kenya Red Cross, like today during the pandemic season and all that, if you are volunteering in Red Cross, bring that out. Yes, I'm volunteering. Or if you have been involved in a certain project in the community, that's what they want to see. But remember, it should connect to the track which you are applying. Then please include the name of the project. Yeah, come up strongly and tell us the name of that project or that company you have or that organization. Where is it located? So bring out the location of it, right? And then you are working there as who? Are you a volunteer? What is your position currently there, right? And links there to the website. Do you have any maybe publication in the social media, in the websites and all that? And this is very important. Make sure before you apply, your social media is clean. Make sure at least there is some article. If maybe whatever you are doing, you have a blog, link it to that particular blog. If you have a website, yes. If you have maybe kind of like a Facebook, do it. If you are a musician, maybe you have a YouTube channel, link it there. They want to see, besides what you are telling them here in writing, is it also on the social media? So they have to go and check also if whatever you are telling them is also connected, or you're also posting it on the on the social media. So make sure you've cleaned your social media, and make sure that maybe this aspect of social media, it has the components that can really support your application. So in that case, you have also to discuss the impact or the results. What is the impact? You might be doing a project, yes, but do we have any results? Do we have any impact that you can really pick and say that since I started doing this particular project, these are the results, this is the impact? Because we believe that in any project that you are involved in, it must have an impact. You must give us that result, tangible results. And in this case, for you to support your results, it is always good even if you can back up your results with some maybe data, some statistics. If you are doing a training, say, how many have you trained? Maybe you say, I've trained 20 women, 20 women in my community. I've trained them maybe on how to do bid making, or maybe entrepreneurship. And what are the results of that? Have they started maybe doing that business? How many are they? What is the impact? Has it changed their life? Now they used maybe to be beggars. They used to maybe to borrow money from their husbands. But today they have some money, they have started business, and out of that business, they can have maybe 100 shillings to buy food stuff and all that. So we want to see the impact and tell us how many. Don't just say I've helped. The project has really changed the life of many people. Who are these people? Where are they? So give us some information about how many are. Even if you've reached only 5 people, it's okay, don't worry. But again, you need to be realistic here. For example, you cannot, maybe you are training, you are doing some training and you tell us that within 1 year, you have reached 10,000 people. It might be true, yes, but they look at it very well, the possibility of you reaching the 10,000 people within 1 year. So when you are doing the impact, don't be excited to write maybe 10 million, those big, huge numbers that have question marks. Just say if you have reached 20 of them, if you have reached 15, if you have reached 10, if there are 5, right. If there are 50, right. But you should be true and say the reality, right? And then you also need to tell us the project, where is it located, right? And then give us some history or some information about that particular project. How is it done? Give us a methodology. We want to see the process. Don't just say, I've trained 20 people. How have you trained? Where do you train? Where is the location? Do you maybe train them at the resource center? Who are you working with? Maybe, are there other stakeholders or other partners that you really collaborate with to work with for you to ensure that you have really reached these people? So show us the process and the methodology also. We are also interested to know, yes, you're training, but how are you doing it? What is the process? How is the process until you arrive to the tangible results, or what you call the impact, okay? Then when you're starting this, remember that the very first sentence, it is what is going to attract the readers or the reviewer of your essay. So it really, it is very, very important when you start your sentence with what we call the catchy words. The words that will really influence, will really attract the reviewer. So don't just pick any word, but before you write, think about what is going to attract the reviewer in this question. So the way you start your essay, it matters a lot. Look at it keenly. What do they need? How many words? How do I plan my essay from this sentence to this sentence? Does this sentence make sense? Does it attract the reviewer and all that? Remember, the reviewer is reviewing many essays in a day, and sometimes they don't have time to review each and every application. So if somebody reads your essay, the first sentence, and feel like this person has nothing, is telling me, then he'll just give you maybe less marks and then proceed. So that's why it's very important to have a strong beginning of your essay that should really make sense, right? Then also, if your kind of project, maybe towards the end, it is generating some profit or some money and all that, it is good share that out of this project I started, these are the results, this is the impact, and besides that, at least I'm able to get this amount to sustain myself or to sustain the business. So if that project you started, for instance, it really maybe generates some profit or some cash, please also add that is a very good aspect, that at least it also creates employment. So please feel free and kind of try as much as possible to do what? To involve the profits that you get from that particular project, how you generate the profit, okay? Then we go to the third one, question 3, which I'm going to explain a little bit, and then my colleague will be coming in also. So it says, in light of the recent COVID-19 outbreak, Please outline in detail the effort would you make to contribute to fewer infections and or less socioeconomic effects, in your respective country. Note, for this effort to be successful, it ought to be multi-agency, multi-sectional, a concerted effort between government, private sector, and civil society. So, the key important thing here is currently we are facing the COVID-19 situation and all that. It is very, very important for you to review and think about what is happening today in our country as far as coronavirus is there. And you realize this question is really touching on what is currently happening, okay? So they are asking your effort. So they believe that as a leader, there must be something you are currently doing. They're not just looking for someone who, yes, there is corona, and then there's nothing you're doing. What is your effort? Have you done something? It's really trying to see whether you are an innovator, whether there is something you can come up with an idea to help people, to help cool down the situation, to help maybe even eliminate the coronavirus. So you must think widely in this section. What is there? What is it that I can do? What is my contribution? What is my value that I'm doing to ensure that actually COVID-19 maybe is being contained, or you are trying to reach to the vulnerable people, you are trying to bring up some people, you're trying to bring some innovation, you're trying maybe to start a project. For example, you want to start a project, you train maybe 50 women on how to do the mask and all that, and they start selling. So what are you planning to do? What is your contribution as far as COVID-19 is concerned? So whatever you are going to, how you are going to respond to this, number one, you have to ensure that it connects your response with COVID-19 pandemic. It has to, your response has to connect. It has to be something that is really related to this pandemic. Yeah? They want to know your effort contribution in your community as far as this COVID-19 is concerned. So start thinking about what is your contribution, what have you done? If you have started doing something, write it down. If you have not started, don't worry. Widely, what can you do? So you will partner with other multi-agencies. Remember, you cannot work alone, especially with this coronavirus pandemic. You cannot work alone. They want to partnership. Who are you partnering with? Are you going to partner with the private sector? You are going to partner with the government. You are going to partner maybe with the other companies and all that. So bring out how you're going to work with other people so that you can do it. You can really fight this COVID-19. Maybe to just explain using some examples. For example, if today you have applied or you want to apply on business track, basically this is what you can, how you can respond. Maybe you can think about, you can create a virtual market. Because nowadays people need food, yes, but again, there is that restriction of movement. So what can you do? Is it possible maybe you come up with an idea as a business person, as an entrepreneur on creating a virtual market? Maybe you partner with NGOs to create, or other sectors to create a virtual market whereby someone can just buy food stuff while at home, maybe. And see, these are good opportunities. You make sales, and again, it's also solving the problem of the people, and in sense that now you cannot move to other market and all that. So think in that line. And if maybe you are in public management, you can propose to work with an NGO or any company so that you can create awareness campaign in order to allow people from maybe rural or even urban communities to observe various measures and practices. So you can think about how can I bring this together so that I partner with people to maybe create that information to sensitize people today. Like the COVID has also brought things like stigmatization, depression, and all that. What can you do as far as you are a leader? Is there something I can do as far as maybe with things like stigmatization are affecting our people? Issues with hunger, issues with maybe the spread of this virus itself. Is there anything we can do? Like in social media, how can you, what's your contribution in maybe fighting fake news concerning maybe COVID-19? So you think in that line that there must be something that maybe you can do. If you can mobilize people and show them how to make sanitizers or how to create soaps, how to make soap and sell them, that is an opportunity. And those are the things that now the YALI wants to see. Those are the things that the reviewer wants to see. And then if, yeah, basically, so in business, I've already explained, and maybe those are the things that we want to see you packaging them very well and explaining how you are going to implement them, explaining who you are going to work with, and we want to see if these are viable projects that can be done. Don't think of something that is too big and all that. So when you think that area, I think you will make it. And I want to welcome my colleague to pick from there. Molly.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much, Josek, for covering this section in so much detail. So I'm going to just expound on question number 3 a little bit. And when you're being told about telling your story and telling what you're doing in terms of this pandemic period, as Josek has mentioned, don't shy away from being as expressive as possible in what you're actually doing. So he's gone ahead and given you a breakdown from what you can do and what you can talk about in the entrepreneurship track, what you can talk about in the public management track. And another example I would give is during this pandemic period, as an NGO, as a company, you can probably do a donation. You can probably do a donation in terms of food packages, in terms of profits from your company, a certain percentage. And this, you can talk about how you're going to benefit the most vulnerable group. So it's also important to talk about the target group that you're hoping, that's this impact you're doing, you're hoping to target. Yeah. For example, you can talk about the people or the children in the children's home. You can talk about the elderly. You can talk about the sick, and really emphasize on these target groups and how you're helping alleviate the situation. Also, you can talk about in entrepreneurship, how you've provided employment. For example, during this pandemic period, there are so many companies that have been forced to lock down or shut down due to one reason or the other. So you can talk about how you've been able to retain your employees and how you've reorganized your business structure to actually retain your employees as opposed to lay them off. Because at this particular time, many of our citizens are actually casual labor. And when they're laid off, they're actually going into lockdown with no food. Yeah. So as a business, remodel your structure and look at how you can benefit the people you're working with or your community. So the next question I'm going to tackle, and also Josek has talked about this a bit, is on what is your contribution to the community? In the 3 section, yeah. So for public, for civic, where you're being asked, what is your contribution to the community in terms of engagement or mobilization? So you can talk about how you've motivated individuals towards a common cause. You can talk about how you've been able to mobilize individuals towards a common cause, how you've been able to do fundraising, how you've been able to create a platform, for example, for learning. For example, there are people during this time who've created platforms where they can communicate the effect of the pandemic, how you can protect yourself, how you can protect your community. So these are some of the things you can do by showing the impact of your contribution to the community. You can also use your platform to enhance linking opportunities to people per se. Yeah. So whatever it is you do, find a way to really explain to the person who is looking at this application what impact or contribution, significant contribution are you making to the society. So in the first question, when you're asked to outline your projects, yeah, Josek has been able to talk about, you talk about what impact you're making in the society, yeah. But remember, you have a word limit. Remember, you have a word limit for this particular questions. So in the first question on outlining, focus on stating what your project is. How does it work? Why that particular project? Why are you doing that particular project? Who is that particular project targeting and where it is happening? Then you will have a segment where now this other question is asking you about the contribution. So as for someone in entrepreneurship track, talk about the idea you have and what solution is going to bring. For example, if you already started a company, talk about that startup, that company, what impact is it making to the community. For example, if you're in the agribusiness, if you're in agribusiness, you can talk about how you're providing, how the startup is providing jobs and market to farmers. You can also talk about market linkages. You know, as an entrepreneur, you can talk about how you're providing market, for example, to farmers who normally they'd leave their crops to rot, or there'd be a lot of farmer loss at farm level, how you're providing this market to linkages. You can also talk about how you're getting rid of brokers, for example, in your business. This is very dependent on the line of business that you're currently in for someone who wants to apply for entrepreneurship. And remember also, it is not limited to the people who've already established businesses. You might have a brilliant idea and you don't really know how to commercialize it. YALI is also the place for you where you can actually get the skills. So talk about even providing technical services. You can have a consultancy company. This consultancy company might be working to provide knowledge for SMEs to actually come up and be able to stand a competitive chance in the market. So really talk about your business and the impact or contribution you're doing to the community. The other track is on public management, and you can talk about how your initiative or your project is actually empowering the community. It can be a project on awareness, an awareness campaign, or maybe COVID-19, on corruption, on voting, anything, yeah? But make sure you really don't shy away, you don't talk about your project on the surface. Go in depth, talk about the numbers of people you're impacting, talk about the target group, talk about the location of the people you're impacting in the community. Yeah. The more details you give about your projects, the better for you, because actually you're validating your story. Yeah. And when it comes to contribution, Douglas in the first segment was able to tell you that YALI application are about you telling your story. So in all these questions that we are going through, you make sure you layer up your story. So you've been asked about yourself. What projects are you doing? Currently, you're being asked about your contribution. This cannot be 3 different stories. Yeah? Focus on one single story that is most impactful and is actually related to the track you're applying to. Yeah. So, for example, if you've been talking about the business you started, you cannot suddenly state the impacts of your hobbies. For example, if you have a hobby of, for example, debating like myself, you cannot go ahead and talk about the impact of debates while you're talking about your company as the project. So make sure you align and just be cohesive in your application, such that if the story is on business, be cohesive about that and talk about the impact of the business. If your story is on an initiative or a project you started, talk about it, and it must be related to the cohort you're actually applying to. Yeah. So I'll go to the next question, question 4. take your time to actually look and see where you want to be in 10 years. 10 years is a long time. So you can ask yourself simple questions from what you're doing now, 2 years or 3 years from now, how do you see it? And then build it up from there, what impact you want to create. So for example, if you have an idea, your goal in 10 years could be to start to have a business that is running, or to start an NGO if you're applying for the civic track, or to get a promotion at work, or to create a new initiative and expand your outreach. It could be to expand your business. It could be to make your NGO very sustainable, because you might have a business, you might have an NGO, but it is maybe heavily dependent on aid. So your goal in the next maybe 10 years could be to ensure that your business is actually sustainable. So on that, it is actually individualistic. I'm only giving you a framework and how you can go into a deeper analysis of actually where you see yourself in 10 years. Yeah, don't be afraid to dream, you know. So be ambitious and actually be able to talk to the person who's looking into this application, and show them how ambitious you are and what you want to do in the next 10 years, where you see yourself in the next 10 years. So the second aspect of this question is, how will YALI help you actually achieve this? Yeah. And in this particular question, it's trying to really ask you, which gap have you identified that is preventing you from actually reaching this goal, or that will enhance you to reach this goals? So we are talking about a skill that you've identified you're lacking, maybe a knowledge, or you'd simply like to sharpen your skill and enhance your knowledge. So in the second aspect of it, talk about the skill that you hope to gain. It might be leadership, it might be in business, it might be in civic track. Talk about the skill that you hope to gain. Talk about the networking opportunities that YALI will present. Remember, you're going to meet applicants from 14 or individuals and young leaders who are doing amazing things from 14 different countries. You have to take advantage of these networks. You can talk about how YALI will help you achieve, help you in a change of mindset, because sometimes you might have a business, you might have a project, but you're stuck. What you need mostly maybe is an place where you can actually interact and rejuvenate, so that you have a change in mindset that can actually help you get a solution to the problem you're experiencing. You can talk about how YALI will help you develop new habits or soft skills to connect, to help you better enhance or achieve your goals. You can talk about connecting with potential partners and actually supporters of your initiative, of your company, or of your NGO in particular. So with that, this is not per se exhaustive of what you can do, but it's just meant to give you a guidance on how you can go about these questions. So what are the most important things to actually remember when answering your essay questions? The first thing is, you have to advocate for yourself. Tell your story. No one else. Tell your story, and tell it like you will never have another platform to tell it. Yeah. So advocate for yourself. And as Carol said, prove why you actually deserve to be in this place. Why not the 6,000 other applicants? Why you? Yeah. So take your time. One thing applicants I'd want to really advise you on is avoid last minute application. The truth is, the last minute application, you will not be able to go through that grammar. That submitting 1 hour or 2 hours before, your application will not be as polished. Yeah. So take your time and start early as possible. Avoid procrastination. So be specific and be truthful. You've been able to be informed by previous facilitators about plagiarism. Plagiarism will lead to immediate disqualification from the application process. So be specific and be truthful. You're the only one who can narrate your story best because it's yours. So you don't need Google or nothing to actually tell your story. Be as authentic as possible. The other thing is to be resourceful. You can actually take your time to print out this, fill it out, print it out, print out the instruction, and actually go through them during your free time. You can also take time to ask your friends to actually review your application. Do not be afraid to ask for help. Kindly, do not be afraid to ask for help, because we do realize that we are not gifted in all areas. We have strengths and we have weaknesses. So there might be someone else who's better in grammar than yourself. There might be someone else who's better in precision and cohesiveness than yourself. Reach out to these people, ask for guidance in this particular process. Yeah, it's very important. So another thing I'd want to emphasize is to stick to one story. I know young leaders, you're doing various things in the communities, but it is very important for you to stick to one narrative that is very cohesive and actually builds to your story and your impact. Okay. And also, as Josek has mentioned, try to be as captivating as possible through your application, because at the end of the day, you can imagine there are over 5,000 or 6,000 applications that are coming in, and you want yours to stand out. So be as captivating as possible, be coherent, and be polished. Thank you guys so much. I'd like to hand it next to the moderator or the next facilitator.
Thank you very much, Josek and Molly. I believe that our participants are really gaining a lot of insights, especially on the SE questions. From our interactions in other social media platforms, most of the questions have been on the personal statements and how to go about answering those questions. And I'm very grateful for all the information that you have shared. I am sure that after this, those who have not already submitted the information will do a much better job. And just to alert you guys, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat. You can only send it to admin, which is myself. So you can send your question. That way, by the time we get to the end, we'll just start with the questions in the order that they appear. So once you have successfully navigated the SE questions, the next step, which most applicants find challenging, is the telephone interview. Someone asks you to pick a slot, you pick the slot, and then it's time for the interview, and you are being interviewed over telephone by someone you cannot see. How do you ace that bit? So to help us with this, we have Mr. George Mbithi. George has a communications background. He has worked at RLC for some time and therefore understands the process. But most importantly, he has been on the other side of the telephone, now interviewing potential applicants. So George, karibu sana. Please share with us the tips of how to ace the telephone interview.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair Charles, and the rest of the team who are available in this call. As you've been told, my name is George Mbithi. I used to be the communication manager for the center for just over a year. And during my time there, I also carried out phone interviews. And so all the process up to now, we've been really looking at how you express yourself when you are responding to questions in written form. And now one of the facilitators has already spoken about how you need to really be convincing when you are writing those responses. But you may be a very good writer, but that is not all. The process does not end there. We will call you, we will want to talk to you, and you need to also be as convincing on that phone call. But how are you going to make it? So the very first thing is that you want to understand that this is now your opportunity to speak to a person directly or on phone and sell your story just the way you solved the story convincingly in writing. Now it's your chance to speak to a person and convince them that, that you are that person who wrote those convincing essays. Now, you need to understand that your writing already wowed us. The selection committee sat down, looked at the responses, and they were really wowed by you, by the kind of responses you've given. But will you still wow us on phone? Will you speak to us in a way that convinces us that you are very good? One piece of advice to the applicants: ensure that you check the call timing, because when you are selected, you receive an email telling you that you're selected, and give you a link where you can go and select a slot online. So you need to ensure that you select a timing that works for you. Select a time that you will be available, not a time that, and when you select that time, ensure that you have it in mind, and ensure that you're available at that time. Number two, you ensure that by that time you have set aside a quiet place where you can have the phone call. Just like any other call, when there is background noise, when there is a lot of wind and such stuff, the person who is talking to you will not be able to follow the conversation well. And we have such a high number of people applying, to this center. So if I am not able to hear you well, I just tell you, you will not convince me, and chances of you making it are very low. So ensure that you have a quiet place, maybe at home, maybe in the office, or anywhere where you can talk without interruptions. It's advisable to have your application ahead of you when you are talking, because I will verify some details that you have given us, and as much as you need to have your application there, you also need to be careful not to be reading responses to me, because when I call you, I can tell. I can tell that you are reading somewhere. You need to have a conversation with me, but don't be reading. But it is advisable to have that application there. You can flip and verify something very fast. You need to know that this is the time that we will catch you if you lied. During the phone interview is where you will be caught if you lied. An example will be that you lied to us that in let's say in 2019, you were involved in such a campaign in Nakuru where you did XYZ. Then I will weave in a question in the phone conversation on where you were on 2017, and you will, if you are not a good liar, you will find yourself telling me something that is conflicting what you had told us in the application. And that is why we always say, do not lie. Because when you lie, we will catch you during the interview, the phone interview. Now, the other thing that we really look at is how passionate are you? Are you really passionate about what you are speaking, what you're talking about? If you are talking about what, we will ask different questions, but I need to hear that passion coming out of the phone conversation. We will have very limited time. The actually the slot between one interview to the other is, I think, 15 minutes. You will only have 10 minutes, so that the interviewer will have 5 minutes break before going to the next call. So within 10 minutes, you need to be able to tell your story to me. When I call you, I will start by introducing myself and telling you how many questions we have and how much time we have. So as much as you need to be very eloquent, ensure you observe time so that you can be able to go through all the questions within the time that is available. So be eloquent, but observe time. Ensure that you, with 10 minutes, you can be able to talk through all the questions that I will be having. Now, there are things, we are looking at a leader here. We are interviewing you for a leadership program. So we need to hear a friendly person who is also professional. So have in mind, the interviewer is a human being, So as a leader, you cannot be these people who are always sad. I ask a question. If you do not understand what I have asked, please ask me to repeat the question or expound on the question. You are allowed to engage me as your interviewer. Tell me, hey, please repeat that question. I did not understand it. Or if I get your question well, are you asking X, Y, Z? Say the things that you think I am asking so that you don't waste your time telling me things that are really off the question that I have asked. You are free to talk to me. Now, I think that's all from me, but just be open, talk to me, engage me within those 10 minutes, and ensure that you convince me to propose you to go to the next stage of selection. Thank you, Bwana Chair.
Thank you very much, George. That was a very insightful session, and we keep learning. I remember when I was doing my telephone interview, I was at work and it was quite hectic. So what I essentially did is I told my interviewer that this is not a good time. I know I selected the slot, but I'm under a lot of pressure at work right now. I'll not be able to do justice to the interview. If you please, let's reschedule this to 4 p.m. When I know they will have eased off, and I'll be able to give quality time to my interview. And that's what happened. And thankfully, I made it. So if you feel that you're in a situation or a context where you are not able to do justice to your application, you can speak with the interviewer and request to be allocated another interview slot. That is, if it is available. So now we will go back to CK. She's going to take us through the RLC experience. What is it like after you have aced the written interview, you have done the telephone interview, you have been admitted? What is the RLC experience like? Karibu sana, Caroline.
Okay. I'll try to be as brief as possible, but at the same time, I will try to entice you so that you can go and already start looking at those application questions. Yeah. One thing I forgot to say when I was talking about the application process is that once you submit your application, you cannot edit it. And upon submitting your application, you will receive an email from the RLC telling you that, hey, we've received your application. And only submitted applications can be considered. So remember that. And another tip that I think is important to mention is how I have seen people work on their applications is they work on the responses offline, like on a Word document, later the essays, and then when they're ready to upload, they copy paste it and then submit. Okay, so once you are at the center, like I said earlier, YALI is not a holiday. You are a leader and people have believed in you, they have invested in you so that you can come and explore that, so that you can interact with other people and be able to live that experience. So I will share on both the sort of tips for a successful experience that also will show you what is expected. And I'll be brief. The number one is trust the process. What do I mean by this? Is that every detail in YALI has been carefully thought through. So, and every facilitator there, even the YALI staff, is dedicated to make sure your experience is successful. The schedules will be sent in time, communication will always be there. So it is important that you come with a very open mind and trust the process. You may feel agitated that things are maybe not going as fast as you expect, or they are too fast than you expected. So just trust the process and immerse yourself into it. Number two, the experience is intense, and the intensity, my dears, is intentional, because leadership journeys can be very hard, yeah? And so you will notice that it is 4 weeks. Sometimes you may experience fatigue because maybe there's a lot of meetings, there are a lot of interactions. So and every single day has an activity, yeah? Sometimes even on Saturdays, yeah, or even Sundays, a cultural event may have been organized which you're expected to participate. So come with the mind frame of knowing that the experience is going to be intense and that this intensity is very intentional, yeah, because we only have you we're only with you for 4 weeks, and we would like to channel as much as possible so that you can make sure you leave the center feeling energized, feeling more informed, and feeling more passionate or even more prepared to take up on the challenges that you are helping address in the community. Number 3, you are responsible for your own learning. While we know that the section is intense, the experience is intense, and we're telling you to trust the process, and there will be people giving you very clear instructions. At the same time, you are not going to be spoon-fed, so you are responsible for your own learning. Facilitators may share additional resources, yeah, and it's up to you then to take advantage of that and take that responsibility. And there's something you're going to learn called the 7 habits of highly effective people. And one of the habits is about being proactive. And this is something that I would like you to already know, that you are going in there. We know you're an adult, and we expect you that you're going to be responsible for your own learning. There are very many, you're going to meet very many, I think it's 100, yeah, or thereabout, or 99 other young leaders from other countries or from the same country but different backgrounds or neighborhoods, and they all have beautiful things to offer. You're not going to expect a facilitator or YALI staff to come and show you how to network and tell you, now go talk to Charles, he may have funding for you. So be responsible for your own learning is something that we emphasize and something we hope you can practice. Fourthly, the more you put in, the more you'll get out. If when there's a networking activity, you prefer to go to your room and say, watch Netflix, then you're going to miss out on that. And then when other people are benefiting on an opportunity that came out of that networking, you can't blame them, because the more you put in the program, the more you'll get out. The more questions you ask, people are actually very approachable and they are freely ready to help you. Yeah, so the more you put in into the program, the more you'll get out. Number 5, try out things, even if they are new or uncomfortable. You're going to meet, I think it has been emphasized from the very beginning, you're going to meet people with very different points of view. You thought because they are Africans, then they think in a particular way, but they have maybe had different exposure, and so there will be conflict of ideas. There will be maybe new food to try, or new cultures to experience, or new ways of doing stuff. And so one thing that we encourage all for you to have a beautiful experience at the center is to be ready to try out things, even when they're new or uncomfortable. Of course, we're not going to ever tell you to engage in something that lowers your dignity or something that's harmful or illegal. All things are going to be within the frame of legality, and they're going to help you with your dignity. There is a team building activity where, for instance, we get to try high ropes. This is where you get to climb ropes, and imagine if you have a fear of heights, you might feel like, I'm never going to do this, but we encourage everybody to try such kind of things. Yeah. Another thing is, try and have a beginner's mind, especially if you think you already know it. So when you come to the center, please, please, please come having shared all your knowledge of what I thought. I know this is how proposals should be written, or I know this is how businesses should be led. This is how a strategy should look like. If you come with that attitude, honey, you're not going to learn anything. Thank you so much, Charles, for putting up that picture of the high rope. That's one of the activity that I'm referring to, where you might feel like, I'm not ready to try it, but to have a beautiful experience, you will try those things, because everybody else will be bragging about how they overcame something or learned something. And because you are refusing to try out new things, then you will miss out on such an experience. Thank you. So a beginner's mind is very important, so that you can start learning things anew. Let the experience be to confirm what you already know, but not for you to resist what is being given to you. Yeah. And I think all alumni here can attest that, because of having a beginner's mindset, it really helped them a lot to ask insightful questions. It gave them a genuine curiosity that led them in a different direction. Another thing, build your network. The program is set up in a way you're going to interact. Most of you, all of you will get an opportunity to work in groups. So And these groups will be very diverse, people of different gender, of different ideologies, different countries. So build your networks, because the next person actually who will be talking about alumni and what to expect after that, the heart of that is in the network that you build during the center. And that's where we call upon you to be responsible for your own learning. And then I think that's all from me. And then you're going to learn about a lot of mindsets, yeah? And we will expect you as an adult to carry yourself with decorum, so that you avoid issues of where you have to face the disciplinary board, for instance, yeah? Because we have that just to ensure that everybody respects everyone and we all have a beautiful experience, yeah? And I hope with my few remarks you have you're already enticed to want to apply for YALI, and reach out to us anytime. And we're here to support you and guide you through the process. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, CK. That was again quite insightful. I think before we go to alumni, we have someone who recently commenced from RLC. Her name is Sherin. I'll give her a few minutes just to tell us about her experience at RLC. But maybe before we go to Sherin, I can see George Mbidi has his hand up. George, would you like to say something? Let me unmute you.
Yeah, what I wanted to mention is that when Caroline was talking mentioned about disciplinary, I wanted to let people know that actually you can be sent away from the center if it gets to that. So you need to ensure that your experience is not going to be cut short because of your bad behavior, drunken, disorderly, disrespecting people and getting into fight, all those things. We are a community of leaders at the center, so the experience can actually be cut short. We have been forced to terminate people. Actually, I remember in one of the cohorts, somebody had to be sent home just one day to the graduation date. So it's also something that you need to be aware of before you come to the center.
Thank you so much, George. So Sherin, over to you.
Okay, hi everyone. I'll be able to share a few of my experiences as a cohort 35 just recently from the center. And the first experience that you receive after getting admitted is the email. It comes with a lot of excitement if you did well after the call. We have the Brackenhurst experience, which is normally done on the second and the third day of the YALI program. And then it's designed for the team building experience. And what is in Brackenhurst that you are able to start networking with different young people from different countries in East Africa. Well, it also offers a great lesson for teamwork. And if you are a young person who probably hasn't been to groups of people with great minds, this is where you now get bonding. It also gives you the environment because we have the facilitators and also some of the YALI staff joining us at Brackenhurst. A good number of times we would have a lot of fun. We also have the facilitators, and we have very nice facilitators, and we can always reach out to them when we have something we want to ask, not in line with what they teach, but also in line with what we have and the initiatives that we go with to the center. We also have very wonderful YALI staff members, and if you're good at taking photos and videos and you could be able to take up the experience every time we have that with the YALI staff, it reminds me or the other people that we share with how YALI is a great place to be in. We have KUCC. It's a common term that is used in the when somebody says I'm going to the KUCC, it's either the person is going to KUCC, where we spend our nights throughout the whole month that we are there, and also the KUCC cafeteria. Normally, we are picked from the center, and also from KUCC hostels with the bus, the KU bus, which is also a nice experience. We also have the programs, which are also the courses. It's very intense, and within a short time, you'd notice the 4 weeks is over. And yes, if you're in the public management track, entrepreneurship track, and also, yeah, the civic track, we all mingle at specific times, but we also have different classes. And at the same time, we also have classes that put us together as all the 3 tracks. And it's a very, very nice experience. And we learn a lot. And especially if you have a passion for the track that you are in. We also have the cultural experience and networking, which is a very nice experience. I think that is the best part that I enjoyed in YALI. We had different people from different places, different countries with different cultures. We also have one, I would give you a leakage. We also have one course that's called This is Africa. It has a very nice facilitator, yes. You're able to mingle with the other young participants, and they tell you about their countries, the myths, and what we do not know about their countries. It's a very nice experience. And we also have the business cards, where you are able to tell the young people your idea or your initiative, what you do, and you exchange contacts. Yes. We also have how we spend our evenings in the center is, I would say, there's Wi-Fi. Young people have Wi-Fi. There's Wi-Fi. It's unlimited, and most of the time you'd get people having groups. They would sing in groups. We will also have people going out, yes, but it's very important that when you go out, you go in groups, and yes, you let other people know where you are for your safety. There are other times we also just we just plan things as the cohort members and come up with something and surprises for people with birthdays. Yes, it's a very nice experience. And then we have the challenge. Normally, when you get to the center, that is the first thing you'll be given. So throughout your 4 weeks in the center, you're supposed to be able to work on it, so that when you are taught all that's supposed to be taught, you can be able to deal with the challenge. And normally, a week to the time of the presentation, the center is very intense. People stay up too late on Saturdays and Sundays. Instead of people going out, people stay in the center and use the Wi-Fi. There are group discussion, lots of it, because every team wants to be at the top. It's a very nice experience. Yes. And then we also have finally the commencement. During the commencement time, I have seen people cry. I saw people cry because you have made attachments with people from different countries. You do not want to part ways with the young people. You feel like you have not done enough as expected. And it's very important during the commencement time to at least make sure that out of the 100% attendance of the young people that are in the center, you have at least, in a ratio of 1 to 10, you've at least had 8, if not bad 9, of the contact of the young people. Yes, and also to remind you that it's very important to attend all 100% of the classes and any program that is offered at the center. If you do not do so, like during my time, I had 2 people whose certificates were withdrawn. Yes, after sitting there for a whole 4 weeks. So it's important to attend 100% class and also all the programs that you have in the center. We also have, and during that time, we also have the alumni. People come, they bring us the cake. We mingle with them. They tell us about how they are going to engage us the moment we get to the alumni chapters. Yes, and yeah, it's a very nice experience. And after you get to the outside world, out of the center, you're expected to give back to the community, which some of us are doing. And at the same time, you're expected to stay with your chapters, Kisumu chapter, Nakuru chapter, Nairobi chapter, yes, and just keep growing in your chapters. Yes, so it's a nice experience. And as you make this application, kindly ensure that it's all that you can give. It's you in that paper, and it's also you in that phone call. Yes, thank you, Charles.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful, Shireen. And it's a very fresh perspective of RLC, being the most recent. Some of us were there in 2016, so we have forgotten our way around, but at least you've shared with us how things are now. Thank you. So now we are about to close. I'll invite our participant engagement chair. Her name is Oliver Jemuge. She's going to share with us, after you have gone through these processes and you are out of RLC, what next? How do you join the alumni network and what happens? Welcome, Oliver.
Thank you very much, Tim. How are you?
We are fine, Oliver.
Okay, so we've all been told about the alumni. We've all been told about the YALI and the RLC and the center and what happens there and the experience. But once we are done, so we have an alumni chapter. We have alumni chapters in 14 East and Central African countries. And for us, we have our own alumni chapter of Kenya that is led by our very own Charles, who is our moderator today. And just to mention that the alumni chapter of Kenya has over 1,300 plus alumni who've graduated from the center. And what is the main objective, or why does the alumni chapter exist? The alumni chapter exists to nurture lifelong friendship among the alumni of the RLC who was based in Kenya. Sherry has already told us about the networks. In the center, we are going to meet people from different countries who are doing great and amazing things. But once all is done and we are back to our communities, we as Kenyans are back to the community in any of our countries to bond with our own alumni who are doing great and amazing things. Therefore, lifelong friendship and networking. The alumni chapter also exists to empower alumni through supporting their initiatives to thrive, showcase their achievement in one way or another, and linking them to opportunities and partnership that they can leverage on their own growth. I can comfortably and confidently say that I'm always proud to mention that I'm a product of those who are linked to opportunities, because I graduated in the center in 2016, and as immediately I graduated, after 2 months, I was able to link to an opportunity whereby I've been working at KCB Foundation for the last close to 4 years, courtesy of YALI. So it is a great opportunity to be part of YALI and the alumni. So there are many alumni who get platform as a result of YALI to showcase what they are doing. Just to mention that last year we had the South African conference, and YALI was a part of partners who are invited to, and we had an opportunity as alumni to go there, attend the conference. You know, the conference was very expensive for those who knew. They were paying close to 75,000, but the alumni were given an opportunity to showcase and to attend and to be part of the conference. The alumni chapter also exists to give back to the community through youth empowerment and other community service initiatives across the country. As you all know that our motto is empowering transformation. Thus, after graduating from the program, we are obliged to go back to the community and give back. And how are we going to give back to the community as Alumni Chapter of Kenya? We have the Alumni Chapter that exists in the national level, and we've also devolved ourselves into counties. So far as we speak at the moment, we have representation across all the 47 counties. And how are we implementing what we were given? We are trying to break down what we were taught in the center to be able to empower people back in the society. Those who are not able to go to YALI, give them an opportunity to share what we received in the center. We've been told about the good thing that goes on in the center. So it is our obligation as Alumni Chapter to give back to the community through training, through sensitization, through awareness, and so on. And we also have a transformative and transformation talk series that we organize. We have summits. For example, last year we were able to organize a youth summit that brought together young people from all over the country, that we're able to sit down and see how are we empowering people in our community. And most importantly to mention is development of formation of county chapters has really grown and has really helped us to reach out to each and every young person, not really each and every young person, but to be able to at least reach to those who are in the villages and the communities. And the chapter has various and many activities which are fun related, which are, besides us empowering community, we are able to have fun. For example, the chapter also always organizes monthly social activities whereby we meet in a specific county, not only in Nairobi, but we distribute it in all over the country. Save for COVID, were it not for COVID, we would have gone to many counties. For example, we always have our monthly social run at Karura every first Saturday of the month. We have the monthly social run at Karura. We've also been able to hold hiking in Gong, whereby alumni from across the country met together and were able to do the hike in Gong. We're also able to recently visit one of the sites in Nakuru, and it's fun, and our chain continues that way. Were it not for COVID, as I mentioned, we would have gone far. So it's fun being an alumni, and we do a lot of things that empower community, plus as networking, socializing, and being able to interact with young leaders and being able to see how are they working out. For example, a young person in Migori is trying to solve, say, water challenges. This person can be able to meet with another young person in Machakos and see how they're able to solve waste management or so and so challenges. So it's a great platform whereby we meet, we engage, we interact. We organize sessions and series, we organize trainings, we organize leadership trainings and talks whereby we are able to unpack all that we've been empowered and reach out to all those in the communities. And how are we doing this? Also, we also have an online platform that young people are able to communicate and link. For example, we have Twitter handles, we have active WhatsApp groups for all the cohorts and the WhatsApp group that bring together all these young people from Kenya. We have our Telegram channels, we have Facebook page that we're able to interact, and it's really fun being out there, especially products of YALI Alumni Chapter of Kenya. And why do we exist? What is our vision? Our vision is to be the leading network of young leaders empowered and driving social, economic, and political transformation in Kenya. We've been informed about the different tracks, and you'll find that all these people are empowering transformation in one way or another in all those tracks. There's our mission of ensuring that we are able to reach out to these young people all over the country. What is our mission? Is to promote transformational leadership through continuous learning, capacity building, and advocacy in collaboration with the like-minded entities. If you are in a position to interact in our social media pages, you will be able to see how these young people are advocating for, are making advocacy, are capacity building in one way or another, and linking up with these young-minded people. And last but not least is our objective. Why do we exist? We exist to support and strengthen alumni engagement through networking and collaboration, to promote socioeconomic well-being and political engagement of the young people in Kenya and beyond, to also champion for the service of community by alumni, as I've just told you, to undertake advocacy on issues of interest and concern to our alumni, and finally, to pursue strategic partnership towards realization of the chapter's vision. Just to mention that last year we had a slogan, leading for impact, and this year 2021 we are shifting to celebrating transformation, to be in a position to celebrate all these good things that young people are doing in one way or another in the society. So I want to encourage you that as you prepare, or as you go through your application process, please bear in mind that there is great things ahead of you. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of fun activities after enrolling from the center. Remember, leaders have fun too. So I wish you all the best as you prepare to apply. I hope you've all learned all those tips and that they're going to be useful to you in one way or another. Thank you very much. Over to you, Charles.
Thank you so much, Oliver, coming all the way from Nakuru. The good thing today is we have presenters coming from all parts of the country. I think that's one of the advantages of technology, that we don't all have to be in one place. We are shortly going to a few questions. So far, I can see 3 questions that have come in. But before I do that, I'll invite George. If he has a comment, then we'll go straight into the questions.
Yeah. I wanted to comment on after your experience in at the center, you will go on to continue doing your work, and you also need to know that the center has a website, it has partners that they need to continually update, and that is an opportunity for you to promote your work, promote yourself, promote your work. Talk back to the center, let them write your story. There are magazine, there's a magazine that is specifically for the alumni. There is another magazine that is shared with all the partners for the center, including USAID and all other partners out there. And I have seen people talk about, when I was a communications manager there, I wrote stories of people who actually ended up landing huge opportunities out of our promotion of the work that they are doing. So that is something else. Don't go quiet and just do things and don't talk to the center after your experience. Talk back to them, let them profile the work that you're doing, let them update the magazines, the website, social media, and you will be able to launch your next big opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. So I have a question from someone by the name Robbins. Robin says, thank you for your insightful information. I would like to know if an international student not from Eastern Africa region can apply in this period. Robbins is from Malawi, but currently at Kenyatta University. Now, the answer to this question is that it is not possible. We have 4 regional leadership centers, each with a specific coverage in terms of the countries that they can admit from. And in the case of the Regional Leadership Center East Africa, it can only admit students from the 14 East and Central African countries that were mentioned at the beginning. So Malawi falls under the Southern African region. In that case, you would need to go to the Regional Leadership Center, which is in Pretoria, at the University of Pretoria. Just check out the website for Regional Leadership Center South Africa and find out about their next application dates. Because now for Malawi, it falls under the RLC in South Africa. The next question came from someone who is by the name Kevin. And Kevin is asking, what's your take on the view that YALI is more interested in established young leaders rather than identifying and molding young leaders? Why is previous civic leadership track record given such prominence in application? Now, I think this point was covered by CK when she was talking about the application, and I think Douglas also mentioned it. What is being looked for is not that you have done so much. It's essentially something to show that you are doing something. The challenge we normally have is, let's say you get 3,000 applications, and out of those 3,000 applications, 2,900 are saying, I want to do this, I want to do this. The challenge usually is the people who are saying they want to do something or they will do something, even if you give them the opportunity and they are trained, they may not do it. But if you find someone who, without that training, without resources, without architecture or infrastructure behind them, they are doing something small. If it's civic leadership, even tweeting, you can tweet every day about what is happening, about the changes in parliament and whether that is an affront to democracy. You can tweet issues that you are passionate about. That in itself is a track record, which when you apply, you can say, this is what I have been doing. And if I get the training at RLC, I believe I will be able to do much better than I already am doing. So the idea is not to lock out young leaders, rather it's to sieve between doers and sayers. There are those who are professionally good at saying and also professionally good at writing applications. I remember when we were at RLC, we used to call them professional fellowshippreneurs, in that they write very good applications and get into all sorts of leadership programs, but when you try and find out what has this person actually done, you cannot see it. So this is simply to try and save it so that you have more people who, even after they go through the training, they are going to go out there and do a lot, as opposed to those who will just go through the training and they are not able to do anything after that. I think those are the 2 questions I have received as at now. And I can see it is 6 p.m. So we may not be able to take more questions at this point. What I will say is, if you still have a question, our social media pages are open. Our Facebook page, you can DM us. Our Twitter page, our Telegram channel. If you haven't joined it, just go to our Telegram page. You will find the link there. And we will continue to share information and tips throughout this week, so that by the time the deadline comes around next week on Tuesday, you will have finalized and submitted your application. So thank you so much for coming, everyone. We are really, really grateful. I think I want us to close with one big selfie. And the way we do that, now that this is an online platform, is I'll put on gallery view. Then everyone, please try and put your camera on and face the camera, maybe wave. Then we will take one big screenshot, which we can share. And as we do that, I can see our county lead for Kiambu is with us. Caroline, please say hi to us. You're unmuted, you can speak now.
Hi, good people. I'm Carol. Good to
Karibu
be
sana.
here. Karibu sana.
Yeah. Okay. There are those who are yet to turn on their cameras. We would like to see you and take one big selfie. Hi, Robbins. I can see you smiling there. I can see Sharon. I can see Marco, Miriam, David, Joseph, Mudoni, George, Oliver, Sawa. So let me take a screenshot, which we are going to share on our platforms. And we are really grateful that you guys came. As soon as these disruptions are over, we are going to resume our monthly activities. We usually have a social activity every month, most of the times at Karura Forest. But since last year, we began to take it to the counties. So we had a very exciting camp and ziplining at Kereta in November. We had a very exciting hike at Ngong Hills in August. Every first Saturday of the month, we usually meet at Karura Forest for a morning run, sometimes 5 kilometers, sometimes 10, sometimes 15, sometimes 20. So it's a very good opportunity for you to come and network with us and get to learn more. And for those who may not be successful this time, please don't give up. Some people who we were with at RLC, I know they applied multiple times before they were admitted. In my case, I remember I applied for cohort 1, I was not successful. I applied for cohort 2, I was not successful. I applied for cohort 3, I was not successful, I gave up. So 4 cohorts passed. Then when it got to cohort 7, I tried again, and that time I was successful. So don't give up after one application. Please keep applying and keep taking the online courses at YALI network page, and also keep taking part in our activities. Sometimes that is what makes a difference, when you're able to say that, although I am not an alumni, I have been taking part in YALI activities, and I want to now become officially part of YALI. So thank you so much, guys. You have a very good evening. Thank you for joining us. And we are going to convert this recording and upload it on our YouTube channel. If you are not able to get some points, please check our YouTube channel maybe later this evening. The recording will be there. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Kwaherini.